Hello and welcome back to the Consciously Thriving podcast. It feels so good to be here in this energy, feeling good.
Better. Episode 3 now.
I know, episode 3. Last week we attempted to put out an episode, so sorry we missed a week, guys, but we honestly were so tired. That day we just kept trying to push through this resistance. Like our body was literally telling us, both of us, with the whole weekend we just kept being told this message of like, don't do anything, relax, you don't have to be productive in order to feel worthy, right? Because you and I were chasing like productivity in order to be like, okay, we need to be doing something with our day.
Yeah, I think as well, like that word productivity and what we associate with productivity, because I think we were quite productive in like what we did.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly
I mean?
right.
So it's like changing the dynamic of what that word really means. So yeah, I learned a new way of thinking about being productive, but I think we were so productive because now we're feeling refreshed, we feel better, and you know what? It was actually quite funny, like I feel like how tired we were manifested in different ways. Like you were in a lot of pain and the words that were coming out of my mouth.
Oh my God, guys. Like you have to, you put it on your...
Yeah, I was just talking shit.
Nadia has it on her Instagram page. I created a little clip out of like so the funny delirium that we were in. It was so fucking funny. So essentially, like, I guess this ties into the topic that we want to talk about, which is higher self versus ego, something that we are fucking obsessed with. Like we constantly analyze the difference between the two. We call each other out as well. Like if I see Nadia in her ego, if she sees me in my ego, we're very much like, we're very intuitive and we can feel past the bullshit.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we want to talk about this so badly is because this is the catalyst for a lot of people's spiritual awakening. I think if you don't have this basic understanding, then it's like it forms part of your spiritual awakening, I think, because you don't have this I know I'm repeating myself here, but you don't have this basic understanding. You're not going to make decisions that come from an aligned place.
This is everything.
This is
you
everything.
You need to know this. Like this is what is going to be your guiding pillar, like your guiding light on your journey of awakening. It doesn't even matter what we say. Like nothing that we say matters. What matters is what your soul is trying to tell you, and you learning how to listen to that voice and work with these two elements is like fucking key to everything. So great that you highlighted that.
Yeah, it's actually, I think about it, like a lot of people ask, like, what's the first thing you do with your, like, in your spiritual experience, or like how does that happen? And it starts by understanding you've got two voices.
Absolutely. So I guess like let's talk about what happened last week, because I feel like that was a classic example of ego like versus higher self and us trying to find the difference between the two. I want to start back with my experience on the Friday, and I guess you can explain your experience on the Friday as well.
Yeah, well, it was the same.
It was the same, right? We ended up having the same day without even talking to each other that day, right? Yeah. So essentially that Friday I wake up and I have this feeling of like, you know what, I feel like I need rest. Like I'm not in the place to be creative. I don't want to do the behind the scenes work for my business or like, you know, my social media, nothing like that. Like I didn't want to do that work, right? And I was like, okay, if I don't want to do that, I have to do something. So in the background of my mind, I was like putting this idea in my head that I had to be productive, right? Like I had to clean the house. I had to wash the dogs. I had to, you know, fold my laundry, like all of these things, these tasks that needed to get done.
Yeah.
When really like my body was just saying, chill the fuck out. Like don't do anything. Like literally sit on the couch and be a fucking couch potato.
It's so funny how it comes in, because it's like, okay, well, I get it. Like I won't do my business stuff, but then we think, you know, cleaning the house isn't, you know, as on top of the list, so we can still manage to do that, you know, like it's not
exactly. I was like, I can't have a day where I do nothing.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Your ego self-sabotages you. It's like, well, if you're not gonna do the business stuff, you need to do something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And like all I wanted was just to be, and I can say that now looking back, all I wanted was just to be. I just wanted to be in the day,
in the present moment.
In the present moment, that's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't know that at the time. Of course, I woke up and I was convinced that what I wanted to do was like clean my house and like clean the dogs, because the full moon was coming, and I usually get into like preparation mode and I start like clearing everything like energetically.
Yeah.
So I'm on this mission and I'm thinking I'm like in alignment. I put up a story. I'm like, oh yeah, universe feels like they need to clean on the full moon. It was really funny. And then I just couldn't function. So after that, like this wave of nausea hit me to the point where I actually couldn't even move. Like I couldn't stand up. So I had to lie down, and I would lie down and then the nausea would pass. And as the nausea was passing, I was like, okay, now I can go do the things. Yeah. And then as soon as I would have that thought, the nausea would like kick back in. Yeah. Which basically happened for a couple of hours.
I called you. I called you and she's like, babe, I was full on like trying to get her advice on something, and she's like, babe.
Oh yes, you were like nonstop. You were just like talking about like you were talking about like your business structure and like your ideas, and I was just like dying on the background.
Like, seriously, it's gonna come out of my body in a second. Shut up.
No, I was like, I'm gonna vomit everywhere. Yeah. I'm like, I need to sit down. So then I literally did. I lay down. I stayed there for hours, and I couldn't function. And then whenever I would feel like I would feel better, I would get up, try to go do the things, and then nausea. Eventually I started to see the pattern. I'm like laying there, I'm like, oh, you fucking idiot. Like,
you I was just like, need to do nothing.
Yeah, I just need to do nothing. And as soon as I said that to myself, as soon as I said you just need to do nothing, I just got all of these downloads that wanted to come in. Like once I just allowed that space, it's like the universe was trying to talk to me in so many ways that day. Like there were so many messages on like taking care of your body and just resting and really doing nothing and just being, and that being okay, and you are enough in that space.
Yeah. So it's like you're safe by resting, right?
Yes.
You're safe by resting.
Yeah, like it's okay to rest. Like you are just as worthy if you do nothing with this day and you just enjoy being, right?
Yeah, and I had a really similar day. Like I won't go into the details because it was basically very similar. It played out like I had some time off I prioritize having some time off to work on my business, right? And that Friday, like I had a really busy week that week, and I was like, okay, the Friday I'm going to spend doing this, right? Very masculine, like need to get everything done. And the same sort of thing happened, and it was just like I was so tired, I was pushing through, and like it was more like I was having creative blocks. And then I just went to the Oval to get some breath of fresh air, thinking I'm going to get a break, and I just started getting so emotional because I was like, my body is so tired. Like I look at my face in the mirror, I have bags under my eyes because I had such a busy week. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
yours was actually really, I feel like yours is a really potent story because you actually carved out like time and you were like, I'm going to work on my business. And then the whole time you just kept getting slapped in the face with all of these blocks. But this happened like not even on the Friday. Obviously this lesson goes beyond the Friday.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it manifests in different ways, right?
Yours has been coming up all week.
Yeah.
And you finally just like listened.
Yeah, I did. And it was really uncomfortable to the point that I did no work the whole week.
Yeah,
I've done nothing.
Yeah, you've done nothing. But like,
rest. But that's what I
be
needed.
with yourself. But exactly what you said, like reframing what productivity means, right?
Yeah, it was so productive because I've had so many creative thoughts come up that I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Now I don't need to sit there at my computer thinking about them. They're already there. I've written them down and I can act on them.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important to take rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we came to that, like we ended up having like a crazy weekend, went through, like, honestly, it was the weekend of the Easter weekend. So literally as like Christ like leaves this planet, like the consciousness of Christ, like I really have been like studying religion in that sense just to see like how much of it I want to take on within my consciousness, like what feels right. But I had a really like bizarre experience over the weekend where I just felt like I went through my own resurrection. And then I have another really intuitive friend who used to be a mentor, Anna Gasol. She's been on the podcast
She's
before.
mine as well now.
She's your mentor now. She's our womb coach. She's amazing. But she was saying, oh my God, like she's like, did you feel Christ consciousness like leave the planet and then come back? And I was like, oh my God, that's what this feeling is, because it literally felt like I died.
Yeah.
And then came back, right? So it was really, really potent. But when we got to that I think it was the Tuesday, we decided we were going to film the podcast.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Last week.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we're going to film the podcast, and then we sat down and we pushed through the resistance. We kept pushing, and then I kept feeling like it wasn't right. Like we shouldn't have done, like you, I know you felt it as well. Like we just had this feeling of like we shouldn't be doing this. Like we're not in the space to film, but we were like, no, we need to get out an episode every week. Like, you know, we need to.
Yeah. And it's like, who's fucking telling us to do that?
Exactly.
Ourselves.
Ourselves.
No one what's the worst that's going to happen? We don't get an episode out. No one's
going to care.
No one's going to care.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Like, people will wait till the next week.
Exactly right. Yeah. It's our own stigma, like
our own beliefs that have.
We've created this whole like timeline and structure for ourselves, and if we strayed away from the structure, then we were unproductive or we failed or whatever, right? So we literally got to that day, and I remember even saying the words, because Nadia's like, oh, do you want to do it later on in the week? Because I started to feel really low that day.
Well, she was the first day of her period. It was the second day of mine.
Well, my period was due in 3 days. And guys, my period works like clockwork, right?
Yeah.
It'll come on the exact day that it says that it's supposed to come. It never really comes early. So this day, I remember actually saying the words out loud to Nadia, and I was like, Nadia, we need to do it today, because if I get my period, if this is the first day of my period, I will not be able to show up. I kid you not. Like an hour later, I got my period, which was 2 days early.
Crazy.
It was
because you literally said, like, if this is the because I wanted to move it later to that week, and you're like, no. Because
it was the first day of your period. She was up all night.
Second day.
Oh, second day.
Yeah, I was up in the middle of the night with cramps, and your cat was literally like, I think it was either your dog or your cat was just trying to jump on my face.
Yeah, so literally she's up all night. She was so tired. She was delusional, but she kept saying, I'm good.
Yeah, because I felt guilt. I was like, no, we have to, because I don't have any other, like, we don't have any other time. Yeah, literally. But the point is.
No, essentially, like, we'll finish the rest of the story.
Sorry. Me. Fucking Gemini, just jumping the gun. Too many thoughts, many Jen as well.
Yeah, it's like all over the place. Yeah. No. I'm just reining it back in just to give you like the summary of what we ended up doing. We tried, and then it turned to shit. I got a funny video out of it, so you can go check out Nadia's Instagram page for it. I even put it on one of my YouTube videos, the one that's going out this week. So it's the one on cyclical living, so you can see that little clip there as well, which is really funny. But yeah, essentially we just looked at each other and we were like, okay, I think we've gotten our message. We are not going to do this to ourselves. Let's just stop. And like I literally looked at you. I was like, babe, we're getting the same message as we got all weekend to prioritize ourselves. You know, this is our ego making us think that we need to perform and that we need to act. And it was really hard for me to say those things out loud. And then, Nadia looked at me and she's like, you're fucking right. She's like, I don't even know why we're like trying, right? Yeah. She's just like, let's just listen. Let's just do what they're telling us to do, because it's
nothing good bad comes out of that.
Well, it hurts trying to like fight it, right?
Yeah. But I just want to address, it's not easy to make those decisions either, because even when we stopped, they're like, I don't know about you, but my ego was really bruised. It was like freaking out. It is
extremely
normal.
Uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable because why?
Yeah, well, we were trying to be productive, right? Feeling like we have to, like, well, we're going to fall behind.
Yeah,
because our ego has all these stories.
Yeah, right. And if we're talking about our ego is built on our beliefs, like what we identify to be true about ourselves. And this is something society has taught us. Yeah. Right, which makes it so difficult, is that because deep down we have now associated productivity with working hard. Yeah. The same way a lot of people have associated being rich with working extremely, extremely hard, which we know is not true,
like
right?
Neglecting yourself, like that hustle culture.
Right, and in that moment it's difficult to understand what's your ego, what's your higher self, but you can see the signs in the moment, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. Like, it's always hard when you're doing it to yourself. It's easy to see it. Like, I find as an intuitive, I can see somebody's ego from a mile away. I can see what's the ego and what's their higher self, and I'm like, I feel like I'm like a gun at this now. Like, I can just feel it. I know what's what. However, it gets to this point, like with yourself, where it's so hard. It's so hard to. That's like even putting
a
it
limiting
out there
belief
that it's
itself.
hard. Yeah, but like it is a bit more difficult because
it feels so real.
It feels real, and you're in it, and you're experiencing.
It's literally in your mind, right? Literally. It's in your mind. So it just. Yeah, and it's just, one of those situations, it just feels so real, so it's hard, and it takes effort, it takes a whole heap of being a consciousness to be able to, like, understand that.
Practice, literally practice. But I think something that really helped us to understand, like, the difference between, like, these concepts, because something that Nadia and I really like to do is, like, really ask questions about this world. Like, we'll fucking question it. We'll, like, sit there for hours before we create an episode, and we'll be like, but what does this mean? Yeah. And how does this make sense, right? So we really questioned, what even is a higher self? What is the ego?
Yeah.
So we came up with these terms that have really helped us. So as you said before, you mentioned that ego is our identity. It's our personality, right?
Yeah. It's, who we believe true to be ourselves. Oh my God, I'm doing the same thing I did. Who we believe to be true, right? Oh my God. I'll do it. We're not even going to cut that out.
No,
now I'm like permanently scarred by what I did.
I know, it was so funny.
It's like 5 attempts to get the right word out, and I did in the end, but fuck.
It was so funny. So essentially it's
who we
out.
I'm like, I'm like, I need to do it. Just
you
go.
really want to get the, okay, go. You
No, I don't. I can't. Just
can't?
go.
Try
limiting
one more
belief
time.
right there.
Go.
Who we see. I can't do it. I can't. No, I can't.
No, it's basically our personality.
Yeah.
It's how we identify. It's the beliefs that we have. It's what makes me Shule and what makes you Nadia in this life, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's ego is formed based on their identity.
Yeah.
Higher self. Why don't you take that one?
Let me just address something, right? So your ego is built on the beliefs that and the experiences you've had throughout your life from when you're born, right? That comes in the form of parents, like influencing you, society, friends, extended family, whatever you can think of. It's basically your ego is carrying beliefs that that you might not have necessarily, like they're not true to you sometimes, That's like when we talk about unintegrated ego.
So that's unintegrated ego. So that's another thing that I was going to mention, just to like pair the two, because the reason why there are these, we've come up with these two terms with ego is because people try to escape ego, but that's literally impossible. Like we have ego to keep us tied to this physical plane, to keep us tied to this physical body, so that I stay Shule and I complete my mission in this life, right? So that you say Nadia and complete your mission. So there's the ego, which is not a bad thing. It's literally what makes you you. And then there is unintegrated ego. And that's the shit that we carry that keeps us from fulfilling our dreams, that keeps us from expanding, that keeps us from our potential in creating this like fucking incredible life for ourselves. So the unintegrated ego, when you always say people saying, like when you hear like us in the community that we throw around this world like word ego, and I want to start changing that. I want to start saying unintegrated ego, because that's what we're trying to like walk away from, right? We're trying to walk away from the unintegrated ego.
The part that you're like, it just comes from scarcity and fear because of the programming you've had.
Beliefs that aren't yours, things that you've taken from your parents, from society, as you mentioned. So unintegrated ego. And then we have higher self.
I'm laughing because we're filming this and my earring just came off. Like I just like had to put it to the side. Like,
did it?
Full on, like,
what side was it on?
This side.
What's that
the
side?
The right.
That's masculine.
There we go. The earring just came off.
You can chuck it back on, hun.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe there's a little sign as we were talking.
Yeah, I like to look at, like, this is a cool little hot tip for you guys. Some people get like ringing in their ears, or like they'll have like pains happening in certain sides of their body. You did?
Yeah, I did. I actually, it was my right, my masculine.
Right. Yeah, she went to the dentist the other day because your jaw.
Yeah, and then it turned out to be, I sprained my muscle in my mouth. Probably.
From tension.
From tension, like stress and tension, like
tension.
Yeah, just like that guilt. Like when I say it feels so real and like it didn't feel good, it feels uncomfortable. Like that physically manifested because I was like, oh my God, I got so much to get done, and like I have all these things. I was so in my mind that my jaw.
Yeah, she was like literally trying, like she actively stopped listening to her ego and sat in the discomfort of just being during all of this time that she had and just using that for herself.
And it was hard.
And yeah, that's literally manifested like physically, and you're probably still going through some of that. So it's interesting that it's like,
it's like shedding off. And my jaw's better. It's getting better. It was really sore that day. It was actually quite fucked. Like I don't actually think I try not to complain about it, but I was like, this is hard. That was so sore. Like I felt like there was a rock in my mouth. Like I couldn't close it.
So it's literally trying to get your attention.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I like that. The earring coming off is like shedding off, like, you know, shedding off these layers.
Yeah, and the dentist is so funny because like when you're in this world, like there's this, I don't know the technical name for it, but like when you become in this world and like you know if you think about something that will expand, right? And then the dentist is like, you know, stress will manifest physically. I just think it's so funny.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he literally said the words, right?
That's literally spirit, universe.
Yeah, so it's just funny how these things happen, right? It'll send you messages however it needs to.
Yeah, the dentist is literally saying the stress is going to manifest physically.
Yeah. But anyway, higher self.
Yes. What is higher self? You take the reins with this one.
So for me, your higher self is your soul. It's the one that it's the voice that knows what's better for you. It's not clouded by, if we think about ego, it's clouded by fear and stuff because of the beliefs, but it doesn't know any of these beliefs, like, right? If you think about it, your soul didn't know these limits when you were like in the womb. Society taught you those things. So it's the complete opposite. It's the version of you that knows where it's going. It knows what's best for you. And it's, that's kind of how I see it.
It's like the limitless version.
Limitless. Yeah, I said that the other day. Yeah. It's like, the version that doesn't know any limits. It knows what's on the opposite side of fear.
Yeah, it's literally, it knows why it's here. It's not limited to like the 3D, the three-dimensional plane. I'm just repeating what you said because
it's what we do.
It's what we do. But
that's dynamic.
It really is, honestly. It's a bit annoying.
It's a bit annoying, but we like to support each other in repeating.
It's like just solidifying that. No, but that's perfect. So that's your higher self. Now, something I didn't realize when I was in my head prior to my awakening and I was really affected by anxiety, I just had my unintegrated ego on my mind constantly, like on a loop. It was loud. It was like a radio in my head. I only ever heard that voice, right? And I just thought we had one voice in our head. And I remember when we were planning this episode with my partner, who is like, he's not really into this world, but he was like, we were saying, I was saying, oh, like, there are two voices. And then now he's like, oh, yes, of course. Like, let's write that down. And then my partner was like, what do you mean there are two voices? And I was like, yeah, there are two voices. There is your ego and there is your higher self.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like,
no,
we're talking about this right now, but like, no, how we were just talking about Anna before, our womb coach. She actually had this download and I haven't shared it with you. And for some reason, I want to share it with you right now. Yeah. She basically said that because I've always wanted Daniel to start opening up to this world and stuff like that. She has always seen that he will start to open up slowly and let a little bit of this in. But she said that she saw you being a big part of that for him.
Really?
Yeah, like you being able to come from a friend rather than like a lover.
Yeah, because it's too close to you.
It's too close for him to listen. Like it's kind of like he wants to rebel against me, but like having your influence, especially because you're spending so much time here now, that it's actually getting him to like think about these questions. And then she had said that, and that week he did yoga with me twice that morning out of his own like free will. And that just was
that's really sweet though. That's because I think like my partner's the same. It's just like it's just too close to you sometimes. Like he when he's like, if he were to speak to you about it, like I've seen him talk to you about like your business and stuff like that, it's a different response because it's like someone else is doing it. Because it's so close to that version of
it's like family.
It's like family. It's like we know who you are deep down, like you know what I mean? But like not deep down. Like he's so used to the person you were prior to your spiritual awakening. So his ego is still associating
with that
person.
Well, he just like he's representing that side of me that like is still like, but what is it going to look like? And like you know what I mean? Like that the part that questions, which we're all going to have that part. It's about not listening to that voice, that unintegrated ego part. But sorry, I know that was totally
like we're going
topic,
but
beautiful. Like I don't know, it just came into my mind, and I was like, I want to share that with you. So
absolutely. But so we do have these two voices, right?
Yeah.
But then people go, well, how the fuck in the moment do I know how do I know?
Yeah.
How do I know? Because when we're making the decisions, we're so involved. Like I said, it feels so right?
Yeah.
So
I think like first things first, gain a self-awareness practice so that you can quiet the mind down, so that you can start hearing the two voices. Because something about like a massive characteristic, you'll hear other intuitives say this as well in the space, that the higher self or spirit, universe, whatever word you want to use, that voice is distinctly more quiet and more subtle. Sorry, that was my dog. More subtle than the ego. The ego is loud. It's obnoxious. It's in your face. It's like, right?
Yeah, because I see my soul as super gentle, right? And if we're talking about an unintegrated ego that's based on fear is very loud.
Very loud.
Yeah.
It like overpowers everything.
It overpowers, like, so that's a really good distinguish. You do need to gain a self-awareness practice because firstly, you need to be able to slow your mind down before doing anything. Like that's why you started with meditation. I started with meditation.
Yeah.
And that helps. Like the more you just learn to just quiet your mind, even if there's no voices coming in,
The biggest thing with a self-awareness practice is also doing it consistently. Like not just getting to this like mastery point and then stopping, because you will lose it. It's like going to the gym. You have to continuously come back to yourself, because our world is so loud and you're like constantly inundated with, you know, the society, other people's thoughts, beliefs. Like you need to constantly have a practice where you are coming to yourself. And I've really sat with this. And, you know, when I first started this journey, I was saying things like, you know, meditation can be anything. It can be drawing. It can be riding a bike and not having distraction. But I really, truly believe, and I know that you have this belief as well, it really is the practice of just sitting there with yourself with no other distraction other than your own mind.
Yeah, because, if you're in the gym, you're still thinking. If your brain's still thinking about something other than nothing.
Well, and then we end up turning into you, babe. No, we end up actually absorbing other people's thoughts, and sometimes you pick up energy that's not even yours, and you're like thinking that it is yours. You know what I mean? Like this is why self-awareness is fucking key. Like just having something where you come back to yourself every single day. I've created a free meditation guide, because I just think like it should be available to everyone. So you can get that on my website. We'll leave it linked in the description below. It's completely for free, and you get to just look up like how I started my journey with meditating, and maybe you can adopt some of the practices to help you. And
it can be difficult. It's starting meditation is not easy.
It was the worst thing in the fucking entire world.
That's another episode.
I hated meditating. I
hated
this is the worst thing I could possibly like do. I couldn't stay with myself. I had so much anxiety. My body just wanted to go, go, go. And people always say that to me now. They'll be like, I just can't meditate. And I'll be like, babe, no one can.
No one can. And this week was the hardest. I tried, like I pushed myself to do a 30-minute meditation the other day. And like, you know, it's a never-ending journey, because I'm like being in this world and I can quiet my mind down, but like because I had so much going on, it was difficult for me.
It was.
So I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
No,
you know?
I actually had the same thing this morning.
Yeah, it's like too much going on.
I couldn't do a 15-minute meditation. Yeah. But then like there are days where you can do a fucking hour-long meditation and you're loving your life and you're like, oh my god, this is the best. Like I don't want to get out of this. Yeah. It just changes based on what you're going through, but. Like, it's so important to be able to, like, we know that that resistance can sometimes be there, but we force ourselves to stay there because we know the benefits of meditating. We know that that's our unintegrated ego trying to go and control and do things. And it's really powerful to have those sorts of practices where you're like, no, you don't have to do anything right now. You get to just be.
That's a good point, because, like, a really good thing to talk about is when you're meditating and these voices are running wild, that's all your ego. That's your ego, like, trying to get you to, like, no, you got other things to worry about. You got like all these different things, and it's purely ego. So, you know, when you're under pressure, people go back to habits, right? So the more you can learn to like quiet that voice down, get back to your breath and all that, that's what's going to happen when you're presented with stressful opportunities in your life, right? Yeah, that same habit comes through.
Absolutely. I now that I'm thinking about it, like when I go back to the start of my awakening, when I started to like listen to that voice that was going crazy, that just wanted to be heard and it wanted to express, which was the unintegrated ego. It basically got to this point through the practice of meditating where it had nothing else to say and it just kind of stopped after that. Yeah. And it just quieted down, and that's when the higher self actually came in.
Yeah, so the truth is, if people think that the ego is too hard to quiet down when you need it, it can be. It's just practice. You haven't given it enough consistency.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to let it express. Like, let it say all the things that it's scared of, and it kind of gets to this point where you start to realize how irrational it is and how it actually doesn't make sense, where you're like, well, that's very unlikely. Like, that's unlikely to happen. So then you stop listening to it and stop giving it so much power, and that's like self-mastery.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, back to the difference.
Yeah, well, that's such a good point. Ego. Like, that's the key. You need to be able to be your own fucking guru, right? Be your own intuitive, be your own psychic, be your own, healer. Because everyone can be. There's a lot of people in this space now saying like, I can do this for you, I can do that. And I think like there are so many people that can help in the process, but really like it's all you.
Yeah, it's honestly freaking true. So like basically to sum that up, like you need that practice to quiet your mind down, because your soul and your higher self is a lot more quiet, right? It's a lot more subtle. But yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what's another good way to like distinguish between
the difference.
Yeah,
I've got a good one.
Share.
Okay, so I know a lot of people don't understand this, or like because the ego is so strong. Sometimes your higher self will often go against logic.
Oh, I love this one. This is such a good point.
It's not logical.
Yes.
That's why it feels like it's wrong, and that's why people go continuously making decisions that are not in a higher alignment because they're so programmed by society, right? So
that's a good one.
Should I share? Maybe I'm just getting this download now. Share my story about, like I guess my journey with social media as well.
Go ahead. Oh my God, she's like the way that you embodied your higher self. Like when Nadia had her awakening, I know that you always say that it was easier because I was there and I had done all the things already, and you were just like, whatever. Like I'm just
you played a big part in it as well.
She was like a badass. Like whenever she would have the realization, she would just act on it no matter how uncomfortable she was.
Yeah. So when I started having my spiritual awakening, what I realized is for me personally that I wanted to get, when I started having this awakening, I started getting into this world a bit more, and I just realized that's all I wanted to speak about. Like if I could sit there asking myself, what's one thing that you want to do with your life? Like this is honestly what like my heart's desire. I'm so passionate about this stuff. But my ego.
Sorry, I'm remembering the moment where she wasn't like she was just coming into this world, and we were talking about like social media and things like that. And we were walking through this like foresty area, and she was like, yeah, like I just don't think it's for me, like this, you know, like I could never do that with my life. And I always knew, like I had that feeling, like I said, guys, my intuition is pretty spot on. Yeah. So I like was looking at her and I was like, I'm like, this is so for her. But I knew that you didn't know that yet. Like she couldn't see that.
Yeah, I couldn't see that.
She couldn't see that that's what she wanted because her ego was her unintegrated ego was too loud.
Yeah.
So I remember looking at her and I like nicely suggested, and I was like, you know, I'm like, do you think that that's true? Yeah. And then she was like, you actually like took a moment and you were like, maybe I do want that. Yeah. You did say that.
Yeah. Well, what a fucking lie. No, so basically, long story short, I, you know, deep down, like as I started listening to my voice, I started getting these practices in. I decided that what I really want to do is to get into the online space and start sharing my voice, right? And start a business in the online space, be my own boss, like all these scary things, right? That seems very illogical. It is very easy, you know, and if you look back at my childhood, you know, there's a lot of self-worth issues there, not thinking I'm good enough or, et cetera, et cetera. That's the most illogical thing that my body could have shown me, you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. Like, you know, I have gone to university, I've done all the right things. Why on earth would I go and do this, right? And my ego is making up so many stories. You're not going to good enough. It's going to take you years to be successful. It's going to take you ages. It's just not going to happen, right? Because, like, to be honest, like, it is difficult getting in this online space because you're on your own. You're your own advocate. It's not as easy as having, like, a salary just coming in. It's not guaranteed. You're your own resource. So in that moment, like, your ego can, like, if I wasn't aware of the difference between the two, my ego would have been running the shop. Yeah. Yeah. My ego would have been running the shop so much, I wouldn't even have gotten into this space.
Do you want to talk about what happened, like, with the soul journey?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I just didn't want to, like, I didn't know if we wanted to take that much
time. I think that this story is, like, a really good representation of ego versus higher self. It's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I was feeling a little bit lost, and if you are feeling uninspired or like not sure what you want to do, just know that that's normal. We all go through it. So, you know, luckily I had Chile in the space as well. So we decided to do an soul journey, right? So we did that.
Soul journey, just for those of you that don't know, it was something that I was offering prior to stopping these services, but I was like an online intuitive, I was a psychic, and I would take people on these journeys where I would like journey them up to something called the akashic records. There you can find like past lives, you can talk to your counsel, you get all these answers. So I would take them on this experience, and honestly it wasn't planned. It was whatever the person needed on the day. So I thought that I would take Nadia on one because she was feeling low and stuck and really didn't know like what her path was.
Yeah, right. And it's just like, this is a good example that spirit will do things in a completely different way to what you think, because you know, sometimes it's a little bit too abrupt to go full forth with what they want you to do, or like what your soul wants you to do. Has to come in segments, which is like how I'm going to explain this. So we went on a soul journey. Obviously Shirley took me up to the Akashic records. I met like all my, I saw my higher self, my spirit guides, all those who were supporting me. And, you know, you asked the prompt questions and you started getting more into it. And what we discovered was that, yes, I do definitely want to be online, but I thought it was in the way of fitness and food, right? Wellness, like, eating well and all that. And, so basically I started an Instagram page, and very, very quickly, I did it for 1 month. Very, very quickly, I realized that it was becoming exhausting and that I actually couldn't be bothered. Like, I was like, I thought that was normal as well.
You were like uninspired.
I was uninspired because I was just like, half my days is talking about spirituality and personal development. And if I one day sat there with myself, I'm like, when I was trying to make the decision as it was becoming more out of alignment, I was like, why is it that I don't want to, why do I think I want to do the fitness stuff? And the truth is because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. My ego was still making up these stories as to why I didn't want to go down the path of talking about the personal development. So basically in that moment, Spirit got me to do something that would be less embarrassing, less, I guess,
something that felt safe to like
safe, right? To even just put myself online, you know. So it's not like, okay, we're gonna get you online and start talking about spirituality, and bless you for even like diving straight into that, like, honestly. But like my ego was like scared. So Spirit knew what it needed to do, but very quickly in that moment, it made no sense. I just started this fitness stuff. I started all this, and like, now I have to change this around. Like, it makes no sense. None of it makes fucking sense. What makes sense? It's just like, logically, my ego made sense of, you go into university, you get your corporate job, you shut up and you do it. Like, honestly, you shut the fuck up and you do your job, right? Like, don't be starting to like create this whole new life for yourself where you're gonna have to fucking be an entrepreneur. You're gonna do all these things, right? Right. So that's a typical example of, it's often goes against logic, or what you see as logic. But starting this journey has been the best thing. I've never been so inspired in my entire life. Like, honestly, I know there's big things coming. I'm so happy. Like, we've started a podcast. Like, if I continued to listen to that ego's voice, I never would be here.
Oh, honestly. But you know what's amazing? Like, you think about the moment that you decided to listen to your higher self, and from that moment, things just keep getting better and better and better. Yeah, like, it's uncomfortable, and we're talking about like this discomfort, and like sometimes it manifests like physically, like with your jaw. But like, this is all learning, this is all growth, and this is all like, it's only gonna get better than this. And that's the amazing thing about following your higher self. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I can really testify to that story with my own life as well, where I, created this online business and it was finally being successful. It was endorsed by a mentor.
This is an amazing story.
This is incredible. Like, it was endorsed by a mentor of mine who I loved. And I was just like, fuck, like, this is amazing. Like, I have regular clients now, word of mouth, it's getting bigger, and I was able to like leave this other job that I had, and now I get to like live this like cyclical life. Like, I'm only there like once or twice a week, which is, what I was manifesting and calling in. And it was so funny because as soon as I got to that, like, that thing, it felt unaligned, because it was like, it was aligned for a little bit, and it like inspired me for a little bit, and then it got to this point of like, actually, no, this doesn't feel right anymore. I don't feel lit up doing this. I don't feel inspired.
Do you feel like you starting that business was coming from your ego? Or do you feel like, because there can be sometimes, like how Spirit did that for me, where it was like, well, this is going to be too far stretched for her right now?
I feel like it was a stepping stone. I don't feel like it was I feel like a little bit, so that it's a both, because for a long time I've had the download of doing YouTube. I got that download at the start of like 2020 or 2021, I can't remember. So YouTube has been like a fucking lifelong desire for Miss Old Chile here. I've been wanting to do it since I was 15. Nadia was there when I started my makeup YouTube channel, and I didn't go ahead with it. I did it all, guys. Like, I was obsessed with YouTube, and it was a lifelong dream of mine. And when I had my awakening and I thought about, like living my most inspired life, I'm not going to lie, it was YouTube. I thought I envisioned myself on YouTube. So it was always there for me. But that was too big of a step, right? I was just like, I can't do that. Like, I can't get myself to be on that space. So my next best option was doing a podcast, right? Because that felt safer and I felt like I could hide my face a little bit. So then through that, getting out online, really starting to like strengthen my voice. Now I'm at a place where, you know, I did the online business. I created like this financial success. It happened so quickly. I know I only did it for like a little bit, so I can't sit there and be like, it was like, you know, it wasn't like,
but it blew up.
It did blow up, right? And it was like one of those things where I was like, oh my God, okay, if I can create this in my life, imagine what else I can create. Like, this is amazing. If I can do this, what else can I actually do? Like, I can create my life now. So am I going to continue to not listen to what I truly, truly, truly want? Or am I going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, and that went against logic because, like, who the hell, like, it makes no logical sense to start a business.
Guys, I had one, like, avenue of income coming in. Like, my partner is actually, like, supporting me at the moment. And I'm saying this openly because I want you guys to know that,
the truth behind.
This is the truth behind
this is what it is to follow your intuition. Yeah, knowing and trusting you'll be supported. Back on our episode 2 around trust, Sheila's doing it on another level.
Yeah, I'm doing it on another level. Like, I've never not had this financial support. I've never not been able to support myself in this way, but I know that this time is necessary because I'm learning so many like potent lessons with money. So like, even though I'm experiencing this, it's not necessarily a bad experience. Like, you know, my partner and I are just like navigating a new way of having a relationship and supporting each other. It's actually like quite beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's uncomfortable, and then there's so much beauty in it, and then there's so much growth, right? And honestly, like, you've already seen the amount of like abundance I've been able to call in slowly. Like, it's already happening, and I'm starting to see like ways in which I can like support myself energetically and through doing this work, and how much abundance there is like through these avenues. You just have to continue to trust and continue to work through the blocks and continue to follow that voice. But yeah, literally, I walked away from all of the income that I had. It made no sense. It made no sense. Yeah. And I like support myself. I don't live at home, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my partner is now supporting me, but like, you know what I mean?
You live
like,
out of home.
I live out of home.
Yeah, you are paying. You have bills coming in.
I have bills coming in. Got bills coming in, things to pay for. I've got like 4 animals. Like, it made no sense for me to make this decision. But now that I've made it, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think a lot of people get this, like, something like that's really extreme as well, when people get this download message, go pick up and go overseas, go live overseas. That's a fucking hard one to navigate, right?
Yeah, your sister did that.
Yeah, my sister went overseas. That was awesome. She's quite intuitive, so she was just like, I know.
She's very intuitive.
Yeah, and she had the best time, and it would have been.
The whole,
I don't even know if it was scary for her, but like, there would have been a little bit of like, oh my God.
You would have been scared.
Yeah, because like, you're leaving your partner, your friends.
And everyone in her life was saying like, don't go. And she was going to Bali, like, you know, Indonesia.
Yeah. So that's scary, but like, that's a typical example. I know this girl that I speak to on the online space, she picked up and moved to Byron Bay. Yeah. So like, it makes no logical sense. Like, that was just where her soul wanted her to go. But like, your ego will come in and say, no sense.
Yeah, like, don't do this. That's not safe. Yeah. That's another really good defining factor with ego and higher self. The ego will try to keep you safe. Yeah. It'll keep you. It wants familiarity. Like, it wants to feel like it can navigate the environment and it understands.
You know what I want to say about the ego as well? Your ego is your little version of you. It's your childhood you, right? Because if we think about the beliefs, you know, that are brought up you, they're just the younger versions of you. Like, even when I need to like revisit my inner child, or like get a new story from my ego, like make sure I keep it safe, I'll go back to myself even from 1 year ago. Yeah. And be like, it's okay, you're safe. Those sort of small things. But it is like, your ego is just younger versions of you that believed these things when they happen. There's nothing to be angry about. There's nothing to be upset about. It's just understanding that younger version was just trying to protect you with one.
Yeah, so approaching it with this like gentleness to it, like what would a child need to hear? That's okay. Nadia is just kicking me under the table. Bitch. She's like, fuck you. No, yeah, your ego is just trying to keep you, like, it's scared. It's an inner child. So having that gentleness, that's what I'm saying, having that gentleness with that voice. And that has actually really helped. I've been really adopting that for the last like 2 weeks, like approaching it with this like gentleness, this kindness, this softness. And it really like diffuses it a bit more. Like it feels more like when you talk to that voice and you start to reassure it and you're like, it's okay. Like it's safe. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And even if it does, we'll know how to navigate it. Like it's a lot more easier to like work with yourself. But essentially you need to figure out a way to be working with the higher self and the ego together simultaneously in a way that is like cohesive, right? In a way that does like support you in your growth. So anytime that you're making a decision when you're listening to the unintegrated ego, like also don't be too hard on yourself. Like these things are scary and like the decisions that we've made so far, yes, like they're scary and they're putting us out of our comfort zone and whatever, but like have that grace with yourself because we get it. Like that voice can be like really loud, but like you're here for a reason. You're hearing this information for a reason. So do those little things like we said, adopt that self-awareness practice. We've given you some key things to like be able to recognize the higher self and the ego and start to tell the difference between the two and just start practicing. And there are going to be moments where you're going to be able to listen to the voice, like to your higher self a bit more. And honestly, I feel like the further along you get on this journey, the easier it gets as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I want to talk about as well? Like, sometimes when that initial thought comes in, like for you to like just stop your business, you know, your ego, that's not like a decision that you're just going to see the results overnight, right? No. So your ego will still continuously play stories in your head, and you have to continuously just trust that that voice that came in was from a higher source and was from your soul. So yeah, like there's a bit of like trusting the universe in that as well. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to do that.
It took me how many months to actually, first of all, it took me a couple of months to admit to myself that I didn't want to do the readings business anymore and to cut off that source of income. So finally saying no to that. And then it took me basically the whole of starting like this year to be comfortable with that idea, honestly. To be like, to feel like, okay, I trust myself. And the more that you can, that's another really good point. Sorry,
I'm getting downloads left, right, and center in
I'm
this.
like, shit, I want to say everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to make this too long for you guys and too confusing. But another really good point about the higher self is the more that you continue to trust that voice, that those like things that don't make sense, first of all, the louder it gets, the easier it gets to follow, and you end up building this like self-trust with yourself. And you can also take this in a more like esoteric and spiritual sense as well, but essentially your higher self is the universe. So developing this self-trust with yourself is developing this trust with the universe, and then you fucking end up becoming like a manifesting machine. Like things just work and fall into place. And
and to be honest, I'm going to be honest, seriously, what's wrong with me? Your intuition is actually your deepest desires, believe it or not. That's the honest truth. Like what you, sometimes it just feels like it's not, but like everything that your intuition is firing at you is what you really, really want deep down. Like your soul came here for these experiences. So yeah, that's like really important.
I can't believe we forgot this. A really important part of like listening to the higher self is tapping into the body.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh my God. Absolutely. So like I always feel like, when making decisions, right?
Listening to the body, because the body will tell you. Like it literally feels like if there's something that you want to do, you kind of like move closer towards it, like physically actually move closer, and you get excited. You start to get butterflies. And when you don't want it, you kind of like get repulsed by it, and you kind of even like push your body backwards, and you kind of like, it's kind of like you even like close down your heart in a sense. You can feel it.
And the initial thought is generally like that, but then what can happen as well is when that ego comes in, then it will start to convince you that that's not actually what you want, because then like all these doubts and fears comes in, and then your body just feels like it feels uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's another good point. Like initially, that first download that you get, like your intuition will be that first thought that you get, right? So that first feeling, that is your intuition. And then all of the whatever comes after it will usually be the unintegrated ego or the ego trying to make sense of it all and like make it make sense, make it linear, put it into a little box as we like to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so just to recap on all of that, so firstly, get yourself in a position where you're doing a daily meditation practice. Just
Sorry, it's too funny. We're getting to the point of delusion. We need to go ground.
Yeah, seriously. Get yourself doing a meditation practice on a daily basis just to soften the voices in your head and just to just not think about anything. Then when you are presented with opportunity, with decisions, or like when your higher self's coming in, what we said firstly is just understand that your ego will be loud because it's based around fear and scarcity, the unintegrated ego, sorry. It's based around all those things that you've been taught that might not necessarily be in your highest good. It's just loud. And then your higher self is a lot more softer. And then the other thing we said for you to be aware of is that your higher self will go against logic, and then your ego will try to get you to reason with logic, which is why it's so scary, which is why making these decisions from a higher place feels like, what the fuck am I doing? So yeah, just wanted to really pinpoint those few key points. I'm not pinpoint. But then we were just discussing, we think it's really important because when we are faced with these situations where we need to make decisions when we're not sure which one it is, there are a few questions we do ask ourselves in the moment. So do you want to share that?
Yeah, I think a good question is, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Like really sitting with yourself. This comes back to self-awareness, right? Where is this coming from? Is this my thought? Or is this coming from outside of me? Like, for example, a big question I've been asking myself this week is, being in the online space, you can be inundated with this idea that you need followers and likes. And I was sitting with myself and I was like, where is that desire coming from? Like, I'm really transparent. So, why do I feel like I need that for validation? Like, where is that really coming from? And I sat with myself and I was like, well, it's not, first of all, it's not a normal human instinct. Oh, I guess it is, because we want to be liked and validated, and it comes from tribal times, I guess. So there is that part of it. But for me personally, I was like sitting with myself and I was like, this comes because I think that this equals success.
Yeah.
If I
remember we had that
amount,
discussion? Yeah. I was like, you're associating
I'm associating like followers and likes and views with success.
Yeah.
Thinking that this means that I'm successful and that I can live my dream life. But that's not true. There are many different ways things can come about, right? There are so many ways that things come into fruition. Like, we don't know how the universe works. It might have nothing to do with that, you know what I mean? But for me, a really big thing that I had to realize was I don't actually even value that. Like, that's not even a part of my value system. Like, quite literally, like, yes, likes and follow, like that will then lead to validation. But to be honest, that's an external validation. And if I come back to my higher self, I actually don't even find value in that. That doesn't actually sit with me. What sits with me and what I love and what I've always tried to create in my life, and this goes beyond my spiritual, before my spiritual awakening, was connection
and community.
I really valued connection. I really valued, and for me, it was never like how many friends I had. It was the quality of the friendship. I could never fake a friendship with someone. I tried throughout high school and I couldn't. I couldn't fit in because I couldn't fake like that authentic connection, right? That just needed to be there, and I needed to feel it. So for me, I'm like, oh my God, Shills, you don't even value that. Like I've never sat there and been like, I need to have 1 million friends and I need to have that. I've always just valued connection.
And that's what you want to build. Yeah, you got to be careful, because then you're going to careful with your manifestations. Well, what do you want?
Yeah, connection, truth, authenticity, that's my value. So I'm like, I need to go back to that and really listen to that. So that's another that's a good way you can use this question, and you can use this in any area of life.
Yeah, I think just personally for me, I know Shirley just discussed her part, but I know a lot of people when they're starting something that's from their higher self, and I'm going to use the online space as an example. These thoughts of I'm not good enough, or even my one that was particular was I almost couldn't be bothered starting an online business because society has taught me that it's the hardest thing. If you've got an online business, you are elite, like you are, like you've made it, you're an entrepreneur, and deep down, like you have to be the smartest of the smartest to be able to like even do that. So though that voice that came in, it's like, yeah, it just really you have to ask yourself, where the fuck is this coming from?
Yeah, is this even mine? Why am I
who the
carrying
fuck
this?
Who's to tell me that I'm not good enough to do this, you know? Like you have to, so asking yourself, where is this coming from, even just with just even the tiniest things in your daily basis, like in your daily life that you like, even when you're triggered, it's like, what is this? Where's this coming from?
That's a good one.
That's how you know, like your triggers are your, like
biggest
they're a
teachers.
blessing. They're your biggest teachers.
Triggers are amazing, because you get to like sit there and like when you live this like conscious life, you get to sit there and be like, because triggers are, that's the unintegrated ego being triggered, right? So you get to like, when you live this self-awareness, when you have the self-awareness in your life and you get to live your life through this lens, you just get to consciously create. And that's what this whole podcast is about, like consciously thriving, right? Because we're no longer acting from a place of that unintegrated ego and creating the same fucking stories, the same cycles. Like we're changing the things. Like we're actually choosing how we respond in certain situations, having that self-awareness to not create the same cycle. It's the ultimate like power. It's the ultimate game changer. It'll completely change the way you show up. Yeah,
absolutely. So always ask yourself, where's this thought coming from? And really sit with it. Think about your childhood. Even go into a meditation and do that. I think that's like what I do personally. I'm like, oh God, so much shit comes up in there, and then you're like, oh my God, my higher self was right the whole time. So another question I like to ask myself is like, what's the worst possible scenario that's going to happen? Like when I started getting into the online space, I was like, okay, I do it. I step out of my comfort zone. People laugh at me, whatever, and I fail. What's the worst that can happen? I fail. Right. And to me, there's no such thing as failure. It's always redirection, in my opinion. But like getting yourself really comfortable with asking yourself, even if you were to like, your intuition came and said, go overseas and live overseas, and you did that and you didn't like it, what's the worst thing you do? You go back home.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like really, they're my two key things I ask myself. So, I
like it. I love what you said. It literally like, first of all, where is this coming from, and what's the worst that can happen if I do make this decision? Right?
Thanks for taking that off me, because I went blank for a second. If you're watching the visual, you'll be like, "Oh, to her face," because I just went silent for a second. Yeah, I just forgot that. But they are such important questions to ask yourself. They're so helpful in building your relationship with yourself. To be honest, getting to know how you tick.
Making your own decisions.
Wow. All right. So, we need to go get a coffee.
Yep. At the point of delusion, clearly. No. We just had to get that all off our chest. So I'm glad we finally got this episode done, because you should have seen us last week. It was hilarious.
It was hilarious. It was a bit like
it was a bit silly. It's a bit of a silly sesh. But thank you so much to everyone who made it this far. I really hope that it's helpful on your journey of understanding, these like three different voices in the head: the ego, the unintegrated ego, and the higher self.
Absolutely. And like Shulei's platform on her YouTube talks a lot about this. She has like more content sharing that, and I have an online coaching business. So if you are interested in getting someone to help you work through this, because sometimes it can be, we're in our own shit. It's too hard to see. If you are interested, then by all means, go onto our platforms, check our stuff out. We talk about this a lot, but your life will change dramatically just by like starting to adopt some of the things that we've said. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode.
Yes.
See you in the next one.
Yeah. Oh, I see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye. If you loved today's episode, please do not forget to rate and review in iTunes or Spotify.
If you would love to connect with us on a more intimate platform, you can find us both on Instagram at Shulei Ozek and at Nadia Gali. We would love to connect with you.
Thanks for listening.